Lauren, welcome. I am thrilled to be chatting with you today.
Hi, Fiba. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm also very excited to be talking to you. I'm so happy for the friendship that we've had over the past few years, and it's always so good to talk to you.
Yeah, ditto. And we'll release it both on podcast apps, but also on YouTube. So if you're able to watch on YouTube, Lauren looks gorgeous today. So this is what we were just talking about before we started off the conversation. But I'd love for you to tell us a little more what it is that you are focused on and doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that we're both wearing pink today. We didn't plan that, but that just shows how aligned we are. So where I am today, I am currently on the path to entrepreneurship. I am exploring this whole new career path for myself that has taken a step away from corporate. I have been in corporate for the last 10 years, and I decided that I wanted to try new things. What helped me do that was actually a podcast that I listened to from a famous life coach, Brooke Castillo, and it was all about changing career paths in your life. And she talked about how most people want to do it, most people have the desire to do it, but most people just don't do it because they just get so stuck in their current situations and the familiarity in the just in the thick of it that they don't ever take a chance or get outside of their comfort zone. And so that podcast really resonated with me, and I thought, okay, at least I know other people go through this, and it's something that's on my mind. And I decided, after leaving my last job, that I wanted to really take a step back and push the reset button on my life and my career. So that led me to doing coaching certifications. So I got certified in life coaching, high performance coaching, executive coaching. I also became a partner with a behavioral analytics company focusing on making HR more strategic. And then I also became a positive intelligence certified coach, which is all focused on mental resiliency. And so right now, I'm trying to really combine my passions of personal development, professional development, growth, evolution, transition, transformation, and help others also on similar journeys and help equip them with all of the right, skills and tools that we need in order to be successful. And so for the past 7 months, I've been making a brand. I've built a website. I've started a blog, a newsletter. I've acquired clients. And so I'm just in the middle of this journey of entrepreneurship and finding new ways to satisfy my purpose.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing that. I think you will resonate, and this will resonate with a lot of people because I think even you have posted like the Gallup, engagement, work satisfaction numbers are pretty low. So there are a lot of people who are looking for more purpose, more meaning, more fulfillment. And not
Mhm.
that work is the only way, right? 100% where we will derive everything, but it's such a huge part, right, of our lives. If we spend anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day, I mean, that's like a third of our lives, or
Yeah.
sometimes it's huge part.
Yeah, I mean, there's really so much to unpack about that. It's very true. I think we are going through a global shift, especially since the pandemic. I think an all-time engagement and happiness is low. People are known to be feeling more isolated than ever, more unfulfilled than ever, more disengaged. And for me, sometimes it's just so obvious when I step out of my house and I go run errands and I see that there's just no pizzazz in people anymore, right? It's all about comfort and security, or staying in, or ordering things on the internet.
Mm.
And I just think that we've shifted, and I think that as human beings, we're not meant to be like that. It will literally kill us faster than we know it. And so people are now trying to figure out. I think everybody's kind of going through this collective shift of okay, what's next? What's more? There's something missing here. And everybody has this underlying desire. And I think it's something that we all go through at some point in our life. And I think it's a really exciting place to be. And on the other hand, too, I think people are also burnt out from work. I think we've seen so many layoffs in the last couple of years. I look on LinkedIn, I see it's never surprising anymore. I just see so many people being laid off. And I feel like corporate has really lost a lot of credibility there. You can work your entire career for a company and devote your life and your soul and your hard work and your energy, and then you can be let go the next day. And what do you have to show for it? So I think it's really this shift in motivating people that, hey, we live in a free world. We can do whatever we want here. We don't have to rely on corporate.
So, and it's a big journey, like few things that you were saying. Like, first of all, even from kind of what you were talking about, the listening to podcasts, right, about
Mm-hmm.
transformation and then embarking on your own journey. I guess, can you
Mm-hmm.
share a little bit how has your journey been? Because it is scary, and I think it's the fear of the unknown and
Mm-hmm.
unpredictable and and it's also this kind of our mind keeping us in the zone of safety and comfort and known, right? Because anything unknown is, threatens, the mind thinks it threatens, or primitive mind thinks it threatens our survival, right? So that comfort is working against us, or that known. And it takes, I mean, I think it takes a lot of overcoming, and it takes a lot of courage and determination to make a shift.
Yeah,
You think
I, I resonate with all of what you're saying. I think it's so true, and I learned a quote this year that really stuck with me. It's by the founder of Girls Who Code, and she basically talked about, especially when it comes to women, we don't make steps if we don't feel like we're going to do it right, right? Or we don't apply for that job if we feel like we don't check at least some of the boxes. Our behavior is just so different that we shell ourselves and we just don't put ourselves forward. And so this quote is courage over confidence. And it's just really stuck with me because there are times where we don't want to do it. We don't feel like we deserve it. We don't feel like we should do it, or why are we speaking up? But then at the end of the day, you just have to say, you know what, I'm going to do it anyways. And this is me and this is how I'm showing up. And the right people are going to resonate and the wrong people are not. And that's okay.
Mhm.
I think, with my journey, I think human nature, we know change is automatic, but we don't like it. We like to be in control. We don't like to be out of control. And so for me, this has been a really interesting time in my life because I have done such a really great, masterful job at being in control of everything. I shaped my 20s in a beautiful way of, going to school where I wanted, getting all the jobs that I wanted, getting the second degree, buying a house, being promoted. I served on the HR chapter in the city that I was in. Like things were just going very, very well for me that I thought, wow, like I'm kicking ass at this. But then I changed my surroundings, and I actually changed my surroundings because I think life got a little bit too predictable for me and a little bit too easy. And I actually remember saying that I wanted to shake things up. And now I feel like, okay, I should have been careful for what I wished for. But at the time, I was really eager for something new, something different. And so I, relocated back to my hometown. I moved to this much bigger city. And it's been 3 years later, and so many things have happened that are out of my control. One of them being I lost my job, I lost my dream job. And it was this time where I was like fighting to regain control, and I just simply couldn't. So I really had to stop. And I had to also recognize that at this time, I was always well adjusted to change, but the change that I wanted to make and the change that I couldn't control and the change that was more adversary, I didn't know what to do. And so it really forced me to do a whole lot of other things, a lot of learning, reflecting, development, listening, um, and some really painful moments there. But I respect everything that happened because I feel like life is not fair. Life is, always going to be up and down. And it's really when you're in the down that you need to know how to navigate it. And you need to know how to come out of it. And you need to know how to find the meaning of it. Because if you don't, you won't achieve anymore. You won't become the person that you're meant to be. You'll become, sad and bitter. And that's not a life for anybody. And I think there's been a lot of inspiration around me to look up to. And I think that's really helped.
Mm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And what I was pulling up as you were talking about your change, especially in the surroundings in life, um, like I live in North Carolina right now, and I will say that just life is very predictable in ways, right? People
Mhm.
either go into their office, work from home. There's the grocery store, right? You take your kids to the practices if you have kids, and you go maybe walk or work out, whatever your routine is. But I wanted to pull up this quote because it came to me when you were talking. Is if you think adventure is dangerous, try routine. It's lethal. And this is
Yeah,
by Paulo Coelho. He's the author of The Alchemist, and it just like resonates so much, and this kind of ties into the previous things that you were saying, that we do so many things out of comfort, but this comfort is handcuffing us at the same time.
yeah.
Soul knows it.
Absolutely. That's the thing. There's another quote that says, if you're not growing, you're dying. And it's drastic, but I think it's so true. If you are not challenging yourself, if you're not growing, if you're not learning, if you're not gaining a new skill, if you're not putting yourself out there, going to travel a country by yourself or moving cities at least once in your life or doing something where you can fail, I ask, like, what is the purpose of that?
Mm,
And I was in a workout class the other day, and I love what the instructor said about in the last minute, like, just push yourself, challenge yourself. Like, we live in a world of comfort now, right? We don't have to leave our houses. We can order our groceries, we can order our supplies, we can watch all our movies. Um, we have our fancy cars. Like, we are designed all for comfort. And how is that really helping us on the other side? Is it? I don't know. Some of the best people that I've ever known of, um, take Christopher Reeves, for example. He was a famous actor and he was the Superman and he was on top of the world. And then he had an injury and he became paralyzed or paraplegic. And he spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair, one of the strongest men, Superman in a wheelchair. And instead of crumbling and, committing suicide or becoming depressed and bitter, what did he do? He created a research foundation to help others in his condition. And he even said that this second half of his life gave him more fulfillment and purpose than being a movie star.
mm,
So it's all about reframing and shifting your perspective. And I also think reframing is something very important, something that I've learned a lot to do lately. You can look at anything and you can either say how horrible it is or how blessed it is. You have to reframe everything as a gift and an opportunity. And the more that you can do that, I mean, it just tricks your brain into really believing that. And you have the opportunity to really undo all of these pervasive thoughts that we have.
mm. I love that. And like so I shared with you, I've been taking this course on Kabbalah, and I've been like, I'm a very spiritual person too, like very grounded in the practical, but like also very spiritual at the same time.
I think
And
that
I'm sorry.
I think that's great.
And to kind of what you're talking about reframing, and also tying in kind of the discomfort, the pain, the things that trigger these reactions, right? That we so don't want, but in this life, I mean, it goes with reframing. Is that this is something that I come back to over and over again, is that everything, even these sorry, shitty things, right? Like
Mhm.
I've been laid off, right? There's like
Mhm.
I've faced rejection. There's life brings you to your knees, right? You're not always on this up and up swing, and that but the pain and everything that happens, from the guy rejecting you all the way to like you not getting what you want in any other area of your life, that this course is teaching. Okay, you pause and you say,
Mhm.
what a pleasure.
Mhm.
Not that it feels good. It's not meant that it's a good feeling, but that you are these situations are bringing you an opening, an opening to heal, an opening
Mhm.
to transform your own reactivity, your own things, and your own things that are not working or stand again, in the way of you getting to where you desired all the fulfillment, like
Yeah.
all the goodness, right? That God, creator, universe, whatever you believe in, wants for you.
Yeah. That's very powerful.
And I love your journey because like it's the shift, right? Because I think it is on many people's minds. And I was just yesterday watching a reel by Susie Welch. She's like teaches this course. I mean, again, also it's kind of on finding your purpose, at New York
Mhm.
University, I think. And she says most people just go for it. There will never be a good time. It's like having a baby. You will never know. There will all be these economic, all these uncertainties. But it's like, why is it like, how was it for you to make the shift? Because I think it's almost like we've been taught this one model, and then we think it's so hard to make the shift. It's like you versus you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, sometimes I think it's really about how a person is like programmed from birth, to be honest. I think it's something that they're either kind of born with, or maybe not born with, but the way that they're socialized early on. And so I think it just depends on a person's circumstances and what they're taught and what they've seen. But I know some people who just love the status quo, they love the tradition, the routine, and that truly makes them happy. And those people fascinate me because I don't understand it at all. Like for me, I need to be, if I'm not changing every year, like I have failed at something. It's weird, but I'll say maybe it's because of my astrological sign. I am a Scorpio, and Scorpios are known for being the sign of transformation and evolution. And something that I think is really fascinating about the period in my life right now is I very much feel like a phoenix. Like I am going through this rebirth, through this transition, through this immense growth, and turning into a new person, and setting myself up for the next decade. And so what's interesting about the sign of the Scorpio is they have two symbols. One's the scorpion, one's the phoenix. And the scorpion is associated with like a younger Scorpio, one who's immature and inexperienced and constantly stinging themselves or stinging others around them, and just kind of in this cycle of self-sabotage. And the phoenix is the one that continues to elevate and to grow and transform until they are soaring like an eagle. And I think that's just a very powerful way of looking at life. um, I think right now, because I'm also very spiritual, and I like all things beneath the surface and getting to the core of what drives us. I'm just choosing to fully embrace this new chapter of life. I feel like I'm very much in the middle of it. So I'm very excited to see where I will come out on the other side. But something that you said that was so powerful before is, as humans, we are always just go, 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 busy, busy, busy. And even in corporate life, right? Like everything is just on rapid speed. Like you get an email, and then 5 minutes later, you're like, hey, did you see my email? Did you respond to my email? And I'm like, hold on, like, let me read it first. But everything is just so fast, right? And we have social media and all this information, all this news, and our brains are just buzzing so much that we don't know how to turn off. And turning off is really hard, but turning off is an immense gift. When you have the power to just let your mind turn off and be still, then everything kind of comes to you. It's like your brain has a chance to catch up to all your thoughts. And I think that there's a real power in that, in practicing mindfulness and meditation. I mean, these are ancient wisdoms of the world, right? Why are we a nation that like puts it as a last priority? I mean, this is truly what helps us become healthier and wiser.
Mm, I love that. Yes, and also, well, the busyness can start to feel very empty.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
feels empty for a lot of people.
A lot of people
It
run, they
feels a
run
lot.
from it.
That's
Yeah.
why they look forward to the weekends, right? It's like dreading Mondays and look forward to the weekends. And I mean, it's been really on my mind. I mean, is it a way to live your life? Because I do believe we came into this world.
Hmm.
I don't think we came, maybe it's an experience, right? One of the experiences, but to spend your whole life like that, unless you're a person like you said, there are people who, if you find fulfillment in that and everything, right, more power to you, you know. But for many people it's this empty checking off days till Friday, happy Friday, never
Hmm.
happy Monday. And then and living for weekends and vacations. But you also, when you were talking about the Phoenix, I remember in one of our previous conversations, you pretty much had said that your life story has been kind of like the rising of the Phoenix. So I'm like, I want to hear more about that. Can you tell us more about how, you know, the transformation, right? And how has it been not just this change, which obviously you're going through, but also
Yeah.
um, how it ties into your life story.
Yeah. Well, I, my background is not very traditional. I went to four different high schools. I lived out of the country after high school, moved around after that. And so, I became very independent at a very early age. And I always relied on building communities wherever I went and meeting people and really adopting like a chosen family. And so already through all of that moving around and these experiences, I was always a little bit different. I didn't feel like I had to go with everybody in high school or be on the same trajectory. And so I went to college. Let's see, I went to college when I was 23. And also, I want to say too, I feel like I'm pretty good at detecting patterns, and I'm detecting the pattern that I'm in my life is that, things were really kind of chaotic and unstable for me until I chose to get focused and make a decision. And then when I made the decision to, go to college and then start my career and put everything into it and build it as fast as I could and catch up, I did very well on building that and maintaining it, um, until I will say it kind of came crashing down. And then this time around there was chaos and instability, and I learned that it was really hard to deal with because it was something I hadn't had to deal with in a very long time. And so now recognizing the pattern of like, okay, refocusing and working towards something, and taking now this new venture, this new career path that I want, and basically putting my head down for the year and doing everything I can to get it built and ramped up. And then hopefully on the other side, now create the next decade, hopefully, for 2, 3 decades, success and wealth and a truly fulfilling path.
Amazing, because I mean, you mentioned, you know, you've done a lot already, a lot of certifications, right? A lot of like trainings and different modalities, you know, building your own presence and building your website. I mean, what drives you? Because I mean, right now, nobody's standing over your head, right? And says, okay, you have a monthly review, you know, or you have a this
Thank you.
deadline. So what do you like? And I know like it's not easy. So what is driving you, would you say?
Yeah. So it's funny. I'll share. I asked my husband. I said, what is your purpose? And he says, my purpose is to have a family. And I said, wow, that's beautiful. I said, my purpose is so different. My purpose is to like find the meaning of life. Like I'm just built differently. I'm just wired differently. I just derive so much satisfaction and pleasure from learning and working and growing. And I spent the last 10 years working in HR, and I contributed and I built and I innovated and I led and I, did projects. And, what you learn is when you leave the job, everything that you've done is part of the company, right? It's not yours. And so now there's this excitement that, wow, it's going to take time, but I get to build a lot and I get to build it for myself, and everything will be the work from my heart and soul that I will get to share on to others. And I would say what drives me is I know what it's like to have laser focus. um I don't get bogged down by other things going on around me, or social circles, or whatever it might be. I stay true to my focus, and I think that really helps me with my goals. I don't let outside noise influence me. I've kind of always been like that. I've always been like a natural born leader. I don't follow. If I'm not entertained by something, I simply won't go. I've come to the point in my life where if I'm sitting there in a conversation or in a social situation and I'm over it, I'll just get up and go. And I
Mhm.
used to not be like that, actually. When I was much younger, I could remember actively feeling uncomfortable in a social setting or situation, but not having the confidence or the courage to put myself out of it. And as a result, I think I really wasted a lot of time. But now it's very different. I will see you later.
That's amazing because I'm still like, I know, like sometimes I can do it, but sometimes on the phone or whatever, it's like I still have a hard time exiting the conversation because of people pleasing or whatever tendencies, or even if you need to go to the restroom, you're like, oh, sometimes I have a hard time saying sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard sometimes. It can be challenging. Um, but I think it's something that I've just either learned, or I'm not really sure where it comes from. I think maybe it's a different in personality, and I know that's
Yeah.
that's what can rub some people off the wrong way, and that's what some people can truly value and respect about me. It just, again, the people that will resonate will stay with you, the right people, and the wrong people, they'll leave.
Yeah. No, I think it's amazing. It's very, very, I think that's something that many of us have to learn along the way, right? And I think sometimes it comes with age. You can do it easier and easier. Like, okay, that's it. Bye. But so from all the things that you're doing right now, you mentioned coaching and also you're doing some personality assessments, kind of and also the positive intelligence. What is kind of the overall intention? I know you said transformation and kind of supporting people through change, like people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so new and it's so fresh and everything is so exciting that I feel like it's all circling in this very like large cloud around me. And over time, it will get more narrow. But for now, what I'm really focused on is, number one, being a people person, being very high on relations, and being the server and the helper that I am. I really want to work with people through whatever they're going through in life as it relates to wanting to make a significant change, wanting to get out of a situation, wanting to feel better about it. Getting unstuck is like a super common coaching term, but it's so powerful because we get stuck all the time, right? We don't make moves, we don't make changes, we ignore the urge, or we just say, that's not for me. But I don't, I want to like start a revolution. Like if people want to change, then they have every right to change, and they should do it with people on their side. So I want to do the change and the transition coaching, but I'm still very connected to my HR career and what I love about HR. And I'll say that for me, I always noticed like a really strong disconnect whenever I would attend HR conferences and seminars and lunch and learns. All of our content would be focused on driving employee engagement and performance and mental health in the workplace and coaching atmospheres and all of these like really good feel good buzzwords. And then you'd leave and I would say, wow, that was amazing. I feel like so rejuvenated. I can't wait to go back to the office and use all of this. And then you get back to the office and it's completely different. I mean, there's just fires to put out, there's different priorities, there's you don't have that much power or influence. And just frankly, people think HR is one thing. HR is a million things. You're pulled into so many different directions. There's just no time for the real warm and fuzzy coaching and getting the most out of people. So I noticed that disconnect, and I really want to be that liaison between HR and their people. Like, they're busy doing open enrollment and benefits and employee relations and performance and hiring and whatever else might be in human resources. Coaching is such an important aspect of getting the most out of your people and helping them grow and develop. And so I really want to bridge that gap between HR and the employees. And the way that I can do that is through these behavioral assessments that I work with. It's the power of, behavioral analytics, predictive models, how to know if you're hiring the right person for the right role, if they have the right innate skills, energy, motivation, communication style. HR is always about being strategic and data driven. And so the product that I work with, the company that I work with, they really help satisfy those requirements of HR. So it's helping organizations drive higher performance, more preventing burnout, boosting more mental resiliency in an extremely burnt out culture. And it's also helping individuals with those tools learn about what their strengths are, how to rewrite their stories, how to, learn new skills and techniques, how to reframe. And so, I see that it's very much very broad right now, but the goal is to serve, people and people inside organizations.
Mm, I love that. And how would you describe how you feel, right? How you felt in the corporate HR job, doing what you were doing versus how you feel doing what you're doing now? Because I think it will give people insight, especially people who are thinking that something's missing, right? Considering some kind of change, but not sure, what it is.
Yeah. Well, for me, this made so much sense to me because, I know the roles that I have done really well in, where I've been promoted, where I've gotten awards, where I've done professional development. And I know the roles where I didn't do so well in. And I think it all came down to uh, well, I would say very heavily on leadership and leadership not knowing how to utilize the strengths of their people. So, I am one that I'm very results oriented, I'm very proactive, I'm very creative, I'm very autonomous. And so if you put me under a micromanager, then it's not going to work. And I have been under that a couple of times and it didn't work and it wasn't supposed to work, and that's okay. And so I would say that you have to listen to yourself and what you really want. If you really want freedom and autonomy and, to try different things, then I think everybody should try their own thing in the path to entrepreneurship. If you're somebody that is, you're okay with, abiding by the norms and the rules and you like to be directed, then, working in teams is the solution for you. But I think it really takes, um, I think it really takes understanding yourself very well and knowing where you'll be successful. I also would know, really strong women in organizations, and I would have conversations with them, and they would tell me all throughout their career how they've had to tone down, how they've had to modify, how they've had to mold. And I recognized that I was one of those, strong, opinionated women. And I could either I could either learn to mold and maybe shrink a little bit, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. I don't want to shrink myself. I want to be very true to myself, and I'm willing to take enough of a risk to see how it works out.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, I don't think we came here on this earth to shrink.
Yeah, I would say if anybody just has like if anybody has this itch or this burning desire of like something else is out there, I want to try something different, I would say you should listen to that, because on the other side of it is you might never listen to it and then you're going to live your life with regret. But, take me with my year of, fast tracked entrepreneurship. I can either give it my all for a year or two and become successful, or completely fail, or I could like not try at all. But how will I know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's better to know because like otherwise that thought is always it's an unrealized right desire. But how do you maybe I know that PDA is one of the personality assessments that you administer. But how can and people have taken like strengths finders, right? Or Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. How do you use those? Because what I see, okay, they take them, but they don't necessarily or disc, right?
Yeah.
So hard to convert it into a path or okay, what does it mean, which job or what work, or even if it is entrepreneurship, right? It kind of doesn't give you like a a clear answer. So how can people use them from your experience to actually get more clarity?
Yeah. Well, I think all the assessments out there are all very different from one another. Strength Finders focuses on basically 5 key words, and the DISC is a very popular but very generic way of categorizing people. Myers Briggs, I understand they measure completely different things, but the PDA, which I really love, because when you use it from an organizational perspective, you have the opportunity to customize it to your organization. So the software has over 150 competencies that you can use to build a desired person or a desired culture or a desired team. And so when a person takes the PDA, they get a complete, comprehensive, personalized report. I mean, it's like 30 pages long. It tells you a person's overview. It tells you their communication style, their sales style, how they overuse their strengths, how to get them to use their strengths, how to lead them. Let's see what else. It gives you graphs and charts on, clearly identifying where they are as far as like their top 10 biggest strengths. Um, and you can also do these matching reports. So you can do a leadership matching report. So let's say that you and I take the assessment, we get our profiles, but then I can see, okay, this is how I lead Biba. This is how she wants to be led, how to get the most out of her, how to develop her, how to talk to her, and vice versa. And so there's also 360 assessments that come with it. So you can get, very regular feedback based on the selected competencies. People can see just by their innate behavioral profile how much of an effort or how little of an effort they are to the matched competencies and job positions. So it's very much a way to make sure that you're making the right hiring decision. You'll be able to predict how successful they'll be in the role. You can see where their development areas are, and you can see the group dynamics of your team. So, all of that information itself is very, very helpful. You can see if you have with your team, if they are all too much of one way or all too much of another way, or you're missing something very important here that the team doesn't have. So, it's basically being an organizational psychologist with all of the information at your fingertips. From a coaching perspective, how it can help is, I'll use my story as an example. When I read it, there were some things where I was like, definitely yes. And then there were some things that I was like, oh, okay. I've heard that before. I've heard that more than once. Okay. But now I can kind of look at it and I can see maybe that's why I am this way, or I behave that way, or, I've had conversations this way. And it just gives you an awareness to improve and to look into it. I look at it like going to the doctor. You go to the doctor, you say, hey, I'm having some pain here and here and here, but I don't really know what the problem is. And then they just diagnose you and they tell you and they say, okay, that makes perfect sense. How do we move forward? What's the prognosis? So, from a personal development standpoint, you can see these are areas that I need to grow. These are areas that I need to work with. These are the areas that will help me thrive. And these are even the areas that will help me create my brand and help me break into something new. I'll use a last client that I had. This person works in data science and they are very, very analytical and very innovative. And so, they had these areas where they felt internally that they needed to work on. And so let's say, for example, they struggled with, not meeting all of their work on time. Well, we could look at that from the PDA and say, because they have such a high tendency to be a perfectionist and they have a high tendency to be very methodical with their work and they take a lot of time and they can't really move forward on decision making if it's not, they don't do, all of the research, then it doesn't really help the team move forward. It really doesn't help them put the work forward and meet deadlines and gain credibility. And it's just kind of how their mind works. So if you can show a person that these are their natural tendencies, it makes it a strength that they are, very detail oriented and they care very much about the quality of their work. Here's why in other areas it might not be the best, and depending on what the situation is. So the it's all about using the way that the PDA speaks about you and drawing from experiences in your career. It helps with relation building, because you have people who work on a team, and you have people who are very, very different from each other. I can give an example of a team that I used to be on. This other colleague, had a very difficult time. If she wasn't told to do something, it wouldn't get done. And she also, would come back with, but is this by the rule? Is this by the policy? And her assessment clearly showed that this person was very policy and procedure and conformity to norms heavy and compliance. And they were also rated very low, on the risk taking, which means that a person is just very much in a helper role, right? Like they are not going to make decisions. They are not really going to go above and beyond. They will wait for the work to come to them. And so in the beginning, instead of getting frustrated by this, of like, hey, why aren't you doing this? Or hey, why can't we move forward with that? I understand now that this is just how they're programmed. This is who they are. And so now I can tailor my approach when I'm working with them to help us, see eye to eye.
What have you seen supports or facilitates the biggest transformation, like when people want to change something?
What facilitates the biggest transformation? Is that what you're asking?
Causes, yeah, what are the reasons for maybe that we can use for ourselves, right? That will like if we have this desire that
Yeah.
we want something different, something else, something better, to feel more alive, whatever it is, um, what would push us most, right? What will make us, to execute it?
I think that needs to start from finding purpose. I think that a person without a purpose is not probably living up to their full potential, right? Like if you don't have anything to wake up for, then why are you getting out of bed? So, I have a client, who is in a situation where she doesn't know how, but she knows that she wants just a different life for herself and for her child. And so sometimes it's just not knowing and just having the question, which is what leads, to coaching, or which is what leads to an answer. So I think somebody needs to have the realization that they want to improve, they want to change, they want to find something that they're passionate about, they want to be successful in something, they want to challenge themselves. I think if you have a goal in mind, then you're in the right place. And I've noticed a lot of people don't plan. They don't have goals. And I think that's a dangerous, I think that's a dangerous place to be if you don't have anything to look forward to. So something that I have been doing now, I have this new planner since the start of the year, and it has a 3 month check in. So every 90 days, I write new goals, how I'm going to get there, what were the obstacles, what were the setbacks, how am I going to, what are the habits that I'm going to learn. Habit setting is a big one. And I guess the last thing I'll share with you, I listened to a really impactful podcast with Dr. Shal Ben Tahar. He was on Mel Robbins, and he was a professor at Harvard. And he talked about the science of happiness is goal setting, is simply having every day to look forward to something, whether it's 10% or 20% of your goal. Not getting overwhelmed with 100% of it, because that's how we don't achieve our goals. But just simply doing progress every single day. It's what drives us forward.
Mm. I guess it comes back to the growth, which is also one of your values. And so you said your purpose is to find meaning of life. What is
Yeah,
your
that
purpose?
was that was a joke before, but yeah, I mean, my purpose is to really find. That's an interesting question. I don't remember the last time I was asked head on, but
Because it's hard. It's hard for people. I mean, it's a hard question, right? And it's hard, and maybe that's part of, kind of like you said, if you don't have the purpose, then what drives you, right? Then it's if you're lacking the motivation and the stamina and the discipline that really is needed. But I think so. One of the ways, and this is kind of, I mean, I've heard it before, but also this course on Kabbalah that I'm taking, I think teaches is that the purpose essentially is to be your best, right? Every day, no matter if you're, you could be in a job you don't like, or you could be um, building your business or whatever it is, but just doing your best that
yeah,
day. And that a lot of kind of some of the dissatisfaction comes from when we know, that feeling at the end of the day. It's kind of this balance. We need the tension, we need the striving, we need the doing and earning of things, to then derive that satisfaction of
absolutely.
accomplishing and feeling good and mastering something. So it's like if you go for walks and meditate and all day long, you're not going to be, that's why I think some of the striving for just easy life is um, it's a bit of a misunderstood kind of striving, because at the end of the day, it probably is not going to fulfill you either, just based on how we're built.
Yeah. Well, one thing you said, and it's absolutely true, and I've heard Simon Sinek say this, is when you're working, I forgot what book this was in, but essentially what makes us workaholics, right? It's the feeling of accomplishment. It's the feeling of finishing a task. It's literally a dopamine release each time we finish a task, and it wants to make us chase more of it. And that's how people become workaholics. And I think it's an important I think it's an important concept for people working in organizations when sometimes the work is just endless and going on and dragging on. Just completing projects and completing tasks is what makes you feel accomplished in your work and in your personal life. And another thing you said too, and it's interesting because I've seen a lot of this now, like especially on Instagram, about the soft life. And the soft life is like, having slow mornings and waking up and enjoying your coffee and like working on yourself and, and ignoring the hustle and bustle. And I think that it's actually very beautiful to be embracing the soft life. I don't know how that would sound to like a baby boomer, but I think also part of the gift is that like we do have this opportunity now to to slow down and to connect more. And I think it's really, really important for our mental health. And I think maybe that's also what's driving people a little bit crazy because they do have more of this time and they don't know how to use it if they're not busy. So I think if you can find a balance between the soft life and the hustle life, I think desired state, because you're busy, you're accomplishing things, you're growing, you're succeeding, you're learning, but at the same time, you're also recognizing that you need to take the time to constantly reflect. That's actually part of the ikigai, the concept of being and living a fulfilling and purposeful life, is that one of the ways that you can achieve that is to be constantly reflecting on what you did, not living in the past, not dwelling in it, but reflecting to see how you can move forward and improve the next time.
Mhm.
And I think that very much ties into my personal philosophy of continuous growth and improvement all day long. So I think I would say like that's really my reason for being, my my higher power is just changing and changing in healthy ways, you know.
I love that. I think like an easy stand or easy starting point for people who want to feel more fulfilled, more alive, like more on purpose is like just knowing your top five, six values
Hmm.
and like trying to put somewhere in the day, activities that align. Like, for example, you and me learning and growth, right? So we need
Hmm.
to be like, we need to kind of research something, learn something new. And that like when you incorporate that's what I found is the easiest like also connection like is one of my values. So conversations like this like fill up my heart and soul.
Yeah.
And so if you know your top five, six values, and if every day you build in moments and activities that fulfill that, it's a huge start.
Absolutely. And it goes to saying also, if you're not trying new things, if you're not having conversations, if you're not putting yourself in different situations, where how do you grow? How do you learn? How do you become fulfilled? I love having conversations like this because I always take something new away from it. I always learn something. I always have a thought that is just, this big messy yarn ball in my head that gets threaded out. Like it's very important.
Mhm.
And I think people, it's important to be doing something that is a creative outlet.
Yeah, like I have a visual of the yarn ball. Like a colorful thread. I love it.
Yeah,
So
and that's part of the coaching too, is, there's no secret magic to coaching. I mean, coaching is having an accountability partner that you resonate with and you trust. And so just by, taking all of the thoughts going on in your head, swirling around, and getting them out with somebody and making sense of them, and being able to plan from there and get through what some mental blocks might be, and learn, new strategies and techniques on the way. I mean, everybody wants a coach. All athletes have a coach. All the Olympians have a coach, right? Like, coaching is very much, I think, a necessary part of life.
oh my God, yeah, the value. I mean, I think we want to do too much on our own in this, and it's partly the crutch because like we don't see our own uh like it's really hard to catch ourselves, right? And kind of why are we going in loops or why we are creating the same reality, right? It takes somebody from the side, and how awesome it is also to work with somebody to catch it quicker, right? To make the transformation quicker. And also, like, people around you don't really have the time. Yes, you can get like some feedback here and there, but working with a coach, I mean, I think it's so valuable.
Yeah, and what you were saying too, I think catching patterns is really powerful. We don't realize that we repeat a lot of patterns, daily, annually, every 10 years, and so you need to recognize the patterns that you have if you want to grow.
Yeah, we don't see our own blind spots or what's keeping us stuck. So, how can people find you, follow, and connect with you, Lauren?
So I love to connect on Instagram and LinkedIn. On Instagram, my handle is with the current coach. And on LinkedIn, my name is Lauren Hoffman. There are a lot of Lauren Hoffmans. So if you put in MSHR or coaching, I should come up. but I would absolutely love to connect with a broader audience, especially women who just looking for more authenticity in their life and more support. You know what I love, and I'll share. When I got laid off last year, the first thing I decided to do was to go on a yoga retreat. And there's my second yoga retreat. And what I love about those is that you have women who come together who simply just book this retreat on the same day. And, they have this whole program that just unites women in such a way. It's such a space where women can share all of their vulnerabilities and their experiences and connect and support. And it's such a beautiful thing. And it always reminds me that, women, for the most part, we're all going through the same experiences, and not just women, but people. We're all going through the human experience, and people just don't want to talk about it because there's a stigma or they won't be seen in a positive light. But I think the beautiful part of life is embracing that things are not perfect. People deal with fears, doubts, insecurities, anxieties, and I think the more people can relate to one another, I think the more united and cohesive we'd be,
Yeah, I love that.
and
Unity.
compassionate.
I love that. Oh, I love that, Lauren. Thank you so much for the lovely conversation. And I'll put everything in the show notes, so people can navigate easily and find you. Thank you so much for all you do. And I really, really appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you, Baiva. Thank you for giving me this platform. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.